Hi everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to this week's reading wrap-up, which, I'm thinking will be shorter than the last couple have been, but I'm not sure because here's the thing. This week was 80% finishing up the Immortals After Dark series, and I've already made a video gushing about the entire series. It's almost an hour long and it's gonna come out either Monday or Tuesday. I'm not sure which day I'll have it come out, so I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about those because if you're interested in that, the first 10 minutes is kind of giving you like 3 reasons why I think you should read the book, some reasons why I love the series so much, and then I go over a quick overview of the whole series. But I will still mention the ones that I read here, but I'm not going to spend too much time talking about them. And since they're 80% of what I read, I don't have a ton of other books to talk about, but we'll see. I make promises, and who knows, starting at the outset, I don't know how long this video will be. But let's go ahead. I read 12 books this week, and I'm going to tell you, they were almost all 5-star because I rated pretty much all of the Immortals After Dark 5 stars, so that happened. I will start with, there's one DNF that I have, and I plan to get back to this book, so I'm not I put a hold on the Stolen Mackenzie Bride, so this is book 8 in the Mackenzie McBride series, and this book is when we go back in time now. So it takes place 120 years before the rest of the series. This is the series by Jennifer Ashley that starts with the madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie, and I absolutely love it. But that book takes place in, I think, the 1850s, 1860s, and then we go back in time to 1745, the time of the Jacobite Rising, which I'm just not in a place where I can read about the Jacobite Rising from a different point of view than Outlander. I will someday. I don't believe that Outlander's obviously the only voice that we can listen to about it. It's just too many parts of it feel like it's copying it, and these are also the Mackenzies, and you hear all the names of the people from the time, and you hear Bonnie Prince Charlie, and it's hard for me to get into it. But the series then goes back in time and we get to read about a few of these ancestors that we've heard of before in the series. And so I do want to read it, but maybe when I have a little bit more distance after just doing my Outlander reread this year. So I just wanted to mention that that's a DNF, but it really is a did not finish for now. I plan to pick that one back up, just not right this minute. Then the week did kind of start out a little bit slow because I read The Skeleton King by Charity B. So you can get this book on, I think it is still currently available to rent on KU. And this book has necrophilia in it. And so I'll be honest, that's why I bought it. I picked it up also because I had read The Necromancer's Bride, which was by Brianna Hale. And this book it's B Charity, sorry, not Charity B. Or is it Charity B? It's Charity B. And my friend Tamika told me, we talked about it on a live stream, and I like trying the freaky things, reading the freaky things. And this one is kind of a reimagining, because this is book 9 or 10 in the Dirty Heroes series, which has been mostly a miss for me. So I wasn't going to read any more in this series because they really are the dark of the dark. So if you want to try those twisted reads, I'm not judging anyone for reading them. That has always been for me. Read whatever dark romance you want. But I just couldn't buy into it. I couldn't get attached to this hero who is so insecure in his sexuality that he needs women who can't say no to him. So he digs up freshly buried women, and then he's a taxidermist. So first he will sleep with their bodies until and then he taxidermies them. So yeah, but it's a reimagining of is it Jack Skellington and then Sally Ann, and I don't like that movie to begin with. I don't like A Nightmare After Christmas. I've never liked it. And this book, I kind of read it with a sick, twisted fascination, and it was interesting. It was interesting to see an author write a story where they're trying to explain why someone might be doing this, but it didn't work for me, but I tried it. So yeah, so I gave that a 3-star because I thought it was interesting. Also, major trigger warnings for sexual assault, for vivisection, like that's what was happening to this woman, because Sally Ann would get experimented on, and especially after reading Immortals After Dark, where like vivisection also happens, I'm like, that's what's happening to this woman when live surgery is happening to you. That's what it is. And it was just like, there was just so many things besides even just the yeah. Blah. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. Then I read Pleasure of a Dark Prince, which, do I have that one here? I do. I almost own all the books now. I bought them all. So this is Immortals After Dark number, I put these in the wrong order. Sorry. Which order are these in? I wrote them down in the wrong order. This one comes first, I think. Yes. So I read Kiss of a Demon King. This book is about a demon and a sorceress. Like I said, I'll go into this full series in a video that's coming out. This was 5 stars. This one is like, so they're just, I can't say anything without going into my full gush. I love this series so much. This was about Rydstrom, the Demon King, and Sambine, the Sorceress of Illusions, and she wants Rydstrom to put his baby in her, and so she kidnaps him to make it happen. That's what I'll say about this one. If I hold up a Kresley Cole, just assume it's a 5-star, okay? I have no defenses. I know that they're not all of equal love to me, but I can't rank them without separating them from each other, and they all just build upon the one before, and my brain just can't. So I loved it. I loved it. But then Katie Roberts threw a hook at me, and because I'm one of her patrons, we get her arcs for all of her books, and I got to read a advanced reader copy of The Sea Witch. Oh, snap. And so I dropped everything. Nothing could have pulled me out of my Kresley Cole spiral except for Katie Roberts. Like, she's the only one who could do it for me. And so this book is this one is the reimagining of like Ariel and Ursula and Eric. And in this situation, Eric wants revenge on King Triton for something that he did. And so him and Ursula team up. He currently has a contract with Hades, which a lot of our characters do. And he's a switch at the club, the BDSM club in Carver City. And he had went to Atlanta, or whatever it's called there. Maybe it's Olympus here, wherever. Don't care. And he like made Ariel fall in love with him, which her name is Zuriel in this book. And let her, you know, kind of tricked her into helping him get out of his contract with Hades. And so she sells her virginity at a virginity auction at his club for like $1 million to Ursa, who buys her. And so Ursa basically buys Zuriel for 7 days for her and Alaric, or Iric, whatever name he's going by, to enjoy. And it was great. I guess I will say I did have a little more trouble with this one than some in the past, just because, number one, I haven't read a female-female male menage, and it's not like I have a problem with those. Like, I don't, but I haven't read one before, and so getting used to the power dynamics was different for me, like, just being real. I feel like I get out of my comfort zone all the time, but Katie Roberts still finds a way to do it. And so some of the different tensions in this is that, like, obviously Zuri is really, like, mad at Alaric for what he's done, and so, like, Ursa's the one trying to kind of, like, she would never admit that she's trying to fix things between them, but also she is. And Ursa is this BBW, she is black, she is this woman just in power, and I did love whenever we were in Alaric's POV, because he's just so infatuated with Ursa, and it's so hot, like, it's so hot. Katie Roberts just melts me into a puddle, and, like, she writes such good BDSM, and it was great to see, I can't. There's nothing else. And now Katie Roberts is going to be writing a vampire female, male menage, and I'm like so excited for it because also while I'm reading Immortals After Dark and I'm just loving vampires and werewolves and all the things right now, to have Katie Robert writing one, I'm so excited about it. I just can't. So that was a 5-star for me. You definitely need to get on the Katie Robert train if you're not. Then I read Captivated by the Winter King, which this is by Minstrel Dawn. This is the third and last book in the Seasons of Love trilogy. I can't remember the name of this series, but these are, I've read the other two. They're all BDSM fantasy romances, and they all involve the Fae world and these women like falling into Fae and meeting their fated mate, which so far has been like, there's the Hunter, I think that one's called like Captured by the Huntsman, or Taken by the Huntsman, and then there was Bound to the Summer Prince, and then this one was Captivated by the Winter King. This one involved a girl who was this woman, which was actually nice because she was in like her mid-30s, so it was cool to read. I don't consider that old, but you know, a lot of people, they're always in the 20s, they're 23 to 28, and like that's where the sweet spot is. And she was in an abusive relationship, and the one night her spouse hurts her, not her spouse, they're engaged, basically. They've been engaged for a long time. He hurts her really badly, and her car ends up crashing and like crashing through into Fairy, and she meets her fated mate, who is the Winter King. And I just cried because this series, guys, is so subtle, and it's a 4-star because the writing style I don't love. Like they're kind of clunky to read in certain ways. I feel like things could have been a bit smoother in how the story is told, but the context is so beautiful. And this one was even better because, like I said, all of these have had BDSM elements in them, but in this one, the Winter King is a switch. So he teaches her how to dominate him, and that gives her freedom as well as being dominated gives you freedom in another way. And so that one was so cool because obviously he can be tortured in really different ways. Not tortured, but you know, dominated in really different ways than she can because he's an immortal and he's uber powerful and strong. And watching them two together and watching their love grow was so beautiful. And this woman who had just been like so beaten down and mistreated to find her power again, just like I cried. So I did only give it a 4-star just because I very rarely am thrown out by writing style, because a really captivating love story or like the romance just sweeping me away, like it will paste over a multitude of sins for me, but I was actually thrown out by some of it. And so to me, I just have to take a star off, because me, who is never thrown out by that, for me to be thrown off, it's a little bit sticky. It was kind of clunky, but I really, really enjoyed this series. And I think if you like fantasy romance, if you like BDSM, if you like uber consent, like so much consent, and just sweet, because these men who've lived forever, when they find their like, I can't even pronounce the name that the fated mate is called. They're just like, it's not that they're like perfect, like they still have problems to work through, but they're just know how blessed they are to find their perfect mate, that they just are like, oh my gosh, I love you. Like, what do you need from me? And I love that. It just melts me, which is so funny because as we're going to get into more of the Immortals After Dark, like that's the exact opposite. Like they're excited to find their fated mate, but they're so controlling over them that you're just like, I find that really hot too. But it was nice to read of the other side where they're just like, I've lived for so long and I want to do everything to make you happy. So tell me what we got to do. And that just melts me in a little puddle. It just melts me in a little puddle inside. So then I read, we are back into Kresley Cole. So there's going to be a lot of these, and then I have a few more that I've just read. So I read Demon from the Dark. This one is about Malcolm Slane, who is a vampire demon hybrid, and Carol Greer, who is a witch who needs to go capture this demon to save her niece, who she is now adopting because of reasons. This is also the first book in what is called like the Torture Island, where a bunch of the magical creatures are all trapped on an island and they're being studied by humans. And the leader of this island threatens Caro to go get this demon, or else he's going to kill her niece. So she has to employ all her wiles to get this guy, not knowing that she's his fated mate. And oh no, that's going to throw a wrench into my plans. Oh no. Then I might not have that one yet. Then I read Dreams of a Dark Warrior, which is about said leader of the island, who is actually a reincarnated version of a a Viking berserker who has been reincarnated time after time, and every time he finds his fated mate, Regan the Radiant, he dies. And so this time he has been twisted by his life and by fate, and he is running this torture island. And we've seen him do horrible things, include vivisection, which, if you don't know what that is, it is surgery on a person who's awake. And it's horrible and not great. And so how are we going to forgive this person? How is he going to find redemption? Will he? Well, this is still a romance, so yes, he will. But how is it going to happen? Is fascinating. Then I read Lowfare, which a lot of people, it's their favorite book. It's the one that we were like building up to for so long. Lowfare is the enemy of old. He is 3,000 plus years old. He's found his mate, who is a demon or a vampire queen trapped in the body of an immortal. And so of a mortal girl. And so he thinks that that queen is his mate, but it's really the mortal that she's trapped in. And he just can't believe that he, the enemy of old, this great powerful vampire, would have this weak human as his mate. And so he really is kind of pushing against that. And he's evil, and I love him. After finishing the series, his was the first one that I went back to like re-listen to certain scenes. Also, I'll say, like, I'm buying this whole series, but I also, I bought them all on audio. These were not available on Audible Escape. The first, 10 were all $10 or less. And then the last few were a little bit more, but I did purchase them all because Robert Peckoff is the narrator, and he will blow your mind. He will blow your mind. He's amazing. So good. So good. Then after that, there was Magrieve, which this is a werewolf who was tortured by succubi when he was young, and now his fated mate is a succubus, and he doesn't know how to handle that. But she didn't know she was a succubus until they do the deed for the first time, because a succubus, she gets her strength from a man's release. You know what that means. They're called the seed eaters. And how is he going to handle that when he was tortured by one as a young man? So, these books, man, do not pull their punches. Then I read Dark Sky by Kresley Cole. This one is, we meet the Reckoners, who, they are a race of demon, but they see themselves as a different race because they're pretty high-handed. They act a little bit like angels. And we have one of these Reckoners whose name is Thronos, which is hard to remember. That's not Thanos, but Thronos, who he is mated with Melanthe, who is a sorceress. And they've been made, they've known they were mates since they were very young. And then something horrible happened. His father killed her parents, and then she, who has the power of persuasion, made him jump off a high building and not be able to fly. So he's been crippled for 500 years because his fated mate made him jump off a high building. And so he finally has her in his clutches again, and they are going to make or break each other. And the other thing about is his race of demon, they are very religious almost. It's totally what the tones are, is that they're religious and they believe that they are saving the world by killing other demons and vampires and whatever. And Lanthe has to change his mind about that, or get him to see how prejudiced and dumb that he's being. I found this book really powerful just because I think that it has a lot of real life ideas in it about like how we can cross those boundaries and how we are maybe raised one way and you don't know anything else about the world until you meet someone who makes you want to change. And I found that really powerful. So though Thronos is not super likable, I found him the most relatable because of his prejudices and like how he reacted to some things. And so I really enjoyed watching him change. Just being honest. A lot of people say he's the worst. And yeah, he's not as fun as some of the other heroes are. But I also think that he had one of the bigger character growths than some did. And he's still not as bad as Lowfare was. We just think Lowfare's sexy, so we forgive him everything. That's what you're doing when you're reading these books. You're forgiving these sexy men anything because they're good with their tongues. Like, let's be honest. That's what we're doing. Then I finally got to read Sweet Ruin, which was fantastic. This is about Josie, who is half vampire, half phantom, and her love, who is Ruin, who is a half demon, half fae. So he's a dark fae, which means all of his bodily liquids is poison. But he also is a sex master. Like, he's a sex assassin / like intelligence officer. So he uses sex to get information, but he can't kiss or lick or do other things to people until he meets Josie, who just thinks he smells so good that one day she takes a bite. And he's like, you're gonna die. You're dead. And she says, you're the best thing I've ever tasted. And they realize that she's his fated mate. And she's not sick from his poison. But he's been sent to do some bad things. And they intersect in some interesting ways. And it was fantastic. So if you want more on my thoughts on how I thought about these, like I said, a video for the Mortals After Dark is coming up in the next day or two. So keep your eye out for that. I'll go over the series as a whole. Also, I do still have the Dacian books to read and the prequels to read, which I did just purchase one of the prequels and a couple others that I will get to soon. So then there's 2 other books I need to talk about quick, and that is I've continued the Victorian Rebel series. So I read The Hunter by Kerrigan Byrne. This is book 2 in the Victorian Rebels. It comes after The Highwaymen, which I really, really loved. This entire series is dark, angsty heroes who have lived through some things. So with this one, we're introduced to Christopher Ardent, who is an assassin. He lives in the shadows. He gets hired for kills, but he won't, he has a couple rules. Like, he won't hurt children. He won't torture anyone for people. And he will not like leave behind like notes or clues or anything like that. He gets in, gets it done, and gets out. So when he gets put on the case of the most famous like actress in London, her name is Millie, he's told to kill her because she has a child with this rich guy and she's like threatening him with telling people that or whatever. So Christopher goes to kill her. And he meets her, and he is instantly in lust with her. So Christopher, he was raised in the same prison that our last character, Dorian Blackwell, was. They were in that group together, but he actually wasn't in prison for prison's sake. He was the son of a prisoner, and he saw his mother brutally raped and murdered in front of him, and he blames himself for it. So when, number one, he meets Millie and is just instantly in lust with her, and then he meets her son. Her son comes in the second time he tries to kill her, and he just sees his mother reflected in this woman. And so he makes a deal with her, and yep, this is going to seem really... He makes a deal with her that for one night with him, he'll protect her and her son. 2 things to note, because yes, this is coercion, this is sexual blackmail, but 2 things. 1, he's gonna do it anyway. Like, he's gonna protect her anyway. And number 2, they're both looking for an excuse why they want to sleep with each other. So, It's so good. And it's also so good because of the level of self-loathing. Like, this guy is going to torture himself because he makes that deal with her. And then he immediately realizes, oh my God, this is exactly what my mother had to do. She would sleep with people for food. She would sleep with people for protection. She would sleep with people for us to have bread and then feed it to me. And I knew where it came from. And I'm doing the same thing. And so the amount of angst in this book is just gonna... Someone in my comments just asked me to make a video with like heroes who like really suffer. This guy would be at the top of the list. Like, I will make that video soon, I promise. I just saw that comment today. I need to collect my thoughts. And also I need to read more of this series because I think a lot of these books are going to be in there. But this was amazing. So there are some people out to kill her, and it's so good. Then the last book I'll talk about, which I just finished. I've waited to film this video because I was almost finished with this book. Also, this entire series is on Audible Escape, which is why I'm like listening to these right now. And I listened to The Highlander by Kerrigan Byrne. This book is about the demon Highlander, who is Lieutenant Colonel Liam Mackenzie. So we have another Mackenzie. And then we also have the girl whose name is Philomena. And oh, Philomena. So Philomena, we meet her in the last book. She actually helped Christopher and Dorian Blackwell find out who was trying to kill Millie, and then her husband punishes her for it. He puts her in a mental asylum after having sexually tortured her for years, beat her, said cruel things to her, just tore her down. And so Christopher and Dorian, the beginning of this book, they rescue Philomena from this place. Because Dorian, being the king of the underworld, he found out that this woman who helped them got sent to this mental asylum. So they rescue her. But then her husband and his family are looking for her. And so they ask Dorian's half-brother, Liam, to, like, if she could be a governess for him. So they don't tell him who she is or what she's done, but they send her there to be a governess for his 2 children. And again, like, the minute he meets her, they meet in this really funny thing. Like, him and his men, they are like in their kilts covered in dirt because there was just a fire and they've been putting out this fire. And so they come to meet her and the wagon wheel is broken. And he's like, well, just come get on my horse with me. We'll drive. And she's like, no. I don't know that you're the Laird. You don't look like the Laird. Why are you covered in soot and dirt? And so she ends up just like, and then she gets back and he was telling the truth. He's the Laird. And they just have such good chemistry. I'm putting out a video this week that is my favorite like governess recommendations, and this one's going right to the top. And this is another guy that he got the Demon Highlander moniker because he fought in a lot of the wars, and he didn't want to live. So every battle he went into it like it would be his last one, and he won them all. And so he carries a lot of guilt for having been away from his home when his wife committed suicide and not being there for his kids, but he doesn't know how to be civilized, I guess is how you say it. But it was so good. That's another tortured hero. Not quite the same level of angst as The Hunter. The Hunter was just so angsty. It was so good. But there you go. These are the books that I've read this week. Mostly all Kresley Cole. It was really hard to shake my way out of the headspace because I just had such a great time there. But yeah, look for that video coming in the next couple of days if you want to know more. If you have read them, please come find me on Instagram or Twitter and we'll chat. Down below is the link to my Discord. We could chat there if you want. There's also a link to the Romance Booktuber Discord that we started just a week or so ago, and it's been doing great. We already have quite a few people in there to just chat and love on books together. So thank you so much for watching. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch some more of them right now. Bye!